Before diving into this incredible story, consider subscribing to the channel and hitting the bell. Every story here has something to say, and you won't want to miss a single one. The icy wind blew through the narrow streets of Chicago, rattling streetlights and making passers-by hurry. In the winter chill, most residents hurried to their homes or cars, ignoring the world around them. But not Maya Johnson. At 11, she had already learned that kindness wasn't determined by age or strength, but by the heart. Maya was carefully holding her small bag of bread and apple juice, bought with the modest pocket money her mother, Angela, had given her. She was walking quietly after school, observing the busy faces and the illuminated shop windows, when her gaze fell on a man sitting on a bench, curled up in a ball, shivering under an old blanket. His face, marked by years and fatigue, exuded solitude. Without hesitation, Maya approached. "Hello, would you like my sandwich?" she asked in a timid but determined voice. The man looked up in surprise, then a faint smile played on his lips. "Thank you, really," he murmured, touched by the simple but sincere gesture. Maya felt a special warmth fill her heart. For her, sharing what one had was the most natural thing in the world. She had no idea that this simple act would set off a series of unexpected events. The next day, the police would knock on her door, and her peaceful life with her mother would be plunged into a whirlwind of fear, incomprehension, and revelations. That evening, Maya returned home, light-hearted and smiling, unaware that her kindness had just sown the first seeds of an adventure that would change her life and the lives of those around her. The next morning, the sun struggled to break through the gray clouds that hung over Chicago. In the Johnson family's small apartment, the smell of hot coffee and toast hung in the air. Maya, still wrapped in her coat, excitedly and proudly told her mother, Angela, what she had done the day before. "Mom, I gave my sandwich to that man on the bench. He was so cold, and he said thank you," Maya exclaimed, her eyes shining. Angela smiled, gently stroking her daughter's hair. "It's wonderful, darling, to think of others. But remember, not everyone has good intentions. You must always remain cautious." Maya nodded, but a feeling of pride and warmth washed over her. She knew she had done the right thing. For her, giving a little of herself to someone in need was the most natural thing in the world. At school, she shared the story with her friends, but some looked at her skeptically. "You don't know who you're giving your sandwich to, Maya. What if it's dangerous?" a classmate said. Maya frowned but remained firm. "I did this to help someone, not to get into trouble." Back home, Angela watched her daughter play in the living room. She knew Maya had a pure and generous heart, but she already had a feeling that this simple act of kindness would attract more attention than she ever imagined. And she was right. That evening, before Maya had even finished her homework, a sharp knock sounded through the apartment. Angela felt a shiver run down her spine. Who could be knocking at their door at this hour? The sound of knocking echoed again, louder this time, startling Maya. Her heart pounded as she moved closer to her mother. Angela, frowning, moved toward the door, trying to remain calm. "Who is it at this hour?" she asked firmly. "Police," a deep voice answered from behind the door. Angela felt a shiver run down her spine. Fear seeped into her mind. She hadn't expected this. Cautiously, she opened the door. 2 police officers stood there, their faces serious. One of them, Sergeant Daniels, had a straight face. "Good morning, Ms. Johnson. We have a few questions regarding an incident that occurred last night," he announced. Maya, who was standing timidly behind her mother, felt a lump of fear form in her throat. "An incident," she whispered. Angela felt anger and distrust rise within her. "What do you mean by that?" "My daughter hasn't done anything wrong," she said, instinctively protecting Maya. Sergeant Daniels observed the girl for a moment, then continued. "We're investigating a man named Marcus Lee. He reportedly had contact with your daughter last night. We need to know exactly what happened." Maya blinked in confusion. She didn't understand why sharing a sandwich could cause so much trouble. "But I just fed him," she murmured. Angela felt her heart sink. What she had feared was happening. A simple act of kindness was now attracting the attention of the police. She took a deep breath and said firmly, "Marcus Lee?" "Yes, my daughter gave him her meal, but he didn't do anything wrong. It was just a humane gesture." Sergeant Daniels jotted something down in his notebook, his expression remaining serious. The situation, which had started as a simple and innocent act, was beginning to spiral into a disturbing mystery for Maya and her mother. Sergeant Daniels and his colleague invited Angela and Maya to sit in the living room, their serious gazes weighing on the small room. Maya, clutching her mother's hand, felt fear rising. She didn't understand why a simple act of kindness could put them in such a predicament. "We need to know exactly what happened last night," Daniels began. "Did your daughter meet this man voluntarily? Did she have any contact with him beyond what you've already told us?" Angela straightened, her tone firm and protective. "My husband is no longer here to support me, but I'm telling you clearly, my daughter did nothing wrong. She only gave a sandwich to someone in need." Maya, her voice trembling, added, I just wanted to help him. He was hungry and cold." Daniels jotted something down in his notebook, frowning slightly. "We don't question your daughter's goodwill. However, this man is connected to some cases we are investigating. We need to verify all the facts." Angela felt the tension rise. She knew that Marcus, the man Maya had given her meal to, had been accused of petty crimes in the past, but had never been convicted. She felt a cold anger rise within her at what she perceived as an injustice. "You can't blame a child for an act of kindness," she said firmly. "If you want to understand, investigate the man himself, not my daughter." Daniels looked up at her, his expression a mixture of embarrassment and surprise. It seemed he hadn't expected such a direct response from a mother facing the police. Maya, despite her fear, felt a surge of courage wash over her at seeing her mother defend her so forcefully. That simple interrogation revealed a disturbing truth: sometimes, even the most innocent acts can attract the attention of those who don't see goodness for what it is. And that night, Maya and her mother would discover that their actions had exposed injustices far greater than they could have imagined. After the interrogation, Angela sat down at the kitchen table, her gaze thoughtful. Maya, silent, sensed something more serious was going on. She didn't understand why giving a sandwich to a man could cause such a commotion. The next morning, as the sun finally broke through Chicago's gray clouds, Angela decided to look up some information about Marcus Lee. She opened her computer and began typing his name. She quickly came across several newspaper articles and police reports. To her surprise, Marcus had been accused several times of petty crimes, petty theft, street fights, but all the records showed that the evidence was flimsy or the charges had been dropped. Some of the complaints even seemed questionable, and Angela felt a chill run down her spine. "It's unfair," she whispered. "All my daughter did was help him, and now the police are interested in her because this man has a complicated past." Maya, curious but worried, approached. "Mom, is he dangerous?" Angela shook her head. "No, darling. That's not what I see. Marcus is just a man who has had bad experiences and has been misunderstood by society. He's cold, hungry, and all he got was your sandwich." As she investigated further, Angela also discovered that Marcus had often been the victim of discrimination and injustice. Police officers tended to surveil him for no good reason. It was a shock to her. A simple act of kindness from Maya had just exposed an unfair and biased system. Angela felt anger and determination rise within her. She knew that now, protecting her daughter and standing up for Marcus would not only be a moral choice, but a necessary fight against injustice. That day, Maya understood, even without fully understanding it, that her gesture had had a greater impact than she could have imagined. And she felt a new strength within her, the strength to continue doing good, even in the face of unexpected obstacles. Barely a few days had passed since the incident with Marcus Lee when the story began to circulate in the neighborhood. Neighbors, intrigued by the police visit to the Johnsons' home, whispered in hushed tones outside doorways and on street corners. "Did you hear? The police came to that little girl's house. Yes, apparently she gave something to a man in need, and now he's wanted. Maya heard these whispers at school and on the street. Some classmates looked at her with admiration, others with suspicion. She felt a mixture of pride and incomprehension. She had only done what she thought was right, but suddenly, her innocent gesture had become the center of attention in the entire neighborhood. Angela, on the other hand, saw things differently. Every whisper put her on guard. She knew that rumors could turn into slander, and she feared that Maya would be wrongly judged for an act that was purely altruistic. We must remain cautious, my daughter. People speak quickly, and often without knowing. In this context, some kind souls from the neighborhood came to support Maya and her mother, praising the girl's courage and generosity. Others, influenced by fear or mistrust, began to imagine exaggerated stories, making Maya's simple gesture into a supposed scandal. Meanwhile, Marcus Lee, unaware that the media and neighbors' attention had reached the Johnson family, continued to survive on the cold streets of Chicago. But thanks to Maya, his situation would soon change. People decided to help him after hearing about his encounter with the little girl. This mixture of support, curiosity, and suspicion posed a question that weighed on Angela: how far would this innocent story go? And more importantly, how long would it take for the truth to come out, revealing Maya's goodness and Marcus's injustice? As rumors continued to circulate in the neighborhood, Angela felt she needed help to protect her daughter and clarify the situation. She contacted an old family friend, Jonathan Price, a pro bono lawyer known for defending the most vulnerable. A few hours later, Jonathan knocked on the Johnsons' door, a calm and confident expression on his face. "Hello, Angela." "Maya. I heard about what happened, and I wanted to offer my support." Maya looked at him, intrigued, with wide eyes. "Will you help me?" she asked timidly. Jonathan smiled softly. "Yes, Maya. What you did was brave and kind. But sometimes society doesn't see good intentions. I'll make sure no one hurts you for your actions." Angela, relieved, explained the situation in detail: the police visit, the neighborhood rumors, and the potential accusations against Marcus Lee. Jonathan listened attentively, taking notes. "Everything you did was legal and moral. We will investigate the accusations against Marcus and ensure that you and your daughter are not wrongly implicated." That same evening, Jonathan began investigating Marcus Lee. He contacted friends in the police and homeless protection organizations, determined to verify information and correct errors. Angela felt a weight lift from her shoulders. She was no longer alone in this fight. Maya, for her part, felt a mixture of hope and pride. For the first time, she understood that her actions, however simple, could attract unexpected and powerful support. She also realized that courage and kindness could inspire others to act for justice. That day, a glimmer of hope appeared in the Johnson family's troubled daily life. With Jonathan's support, they were ready to face the looming storm, and to defend the truth at all costs. A few days after his visit, Jonathan Price returned to the Johnsons' house, his expression grave but determined. He sat down at the kitchen table and placed a file in front of Angela. "I've been investigating Marcus Lee," he began. "And what I've discovered is disturbing." Angela felt her heart sink. "What did you find?" she asked, worried. Jonathan flipped through the file. Marcus was wrongly accused multiple times. Many charges were dropped or the evidence was insufficient. In fact, some officers seemed to be monitoring him disproportionately. Maya, sitting on a chair, frowned. "You mean, he didn't do anything?" Jonathan nodded. "Exactly, Maya. He has been the victim of repeated injustices. And what you did, that simple act of giving him a sandwich, drew attention to him, but also to the injustice he has suffered for years." Angela took a deep breath. Anger rose within her, mixed with frustration. "So the police are interested in my daughter because of a man who was mistreated by the system?" Jonathan nodded. "Unfortunately, yes. But there is good news. With the evidence I've gathered, we can show that your daughter did nothing wrong and that Marcus deserves to be defended." Maya felt a surge of relief. She had simply wanted to help someone, and now she understood that her gesture revealed something much bigger, the flaws in the system and the need to stand up for justice. Angela looked at her daughter with pride. "You've done something beautiful, Maya. And now we're going to fight to make sure the truth comes out." That night, the little family felt stronger and more united than ever. Maya's courage and kindness had awakened the consciousness of adults ready to act for justice. But they also knew that the path would be fraught with obstacles, and that every step toward the truth would be a fight against systemic injustice. The next day, Angela and Jonathan went to the police station, determined to confront Sergeant Daniels and clear the air once and for all. Maya stayed home, anxious but confident that her mother and Jonathan would protect her. As she entered Daniels's office, Angela took a deep breath and confidently stated, "Sergeant Daniels, I'm here to defend my daughter and clear up a misunderstanding. What she did was neither illegal nor wrong. She simply gave a meal to a man in need." Daniels, surprised by the firm tone and determination in Angela's voice, replied hesitantly, "Ma'am, we are only investigating Marcus Lee. We need to verify all the facts for our investigation." Jonathan intervened calmly, "We understand your obligations, Sergeant. But it's clear that your investigation shouldn't target an 11-year-old child for an act of kindness. Furthermore, here are the documents and evidence I've gathered on Marcus Lee, which demonstrate that he has been wrongly accused on multiple occasions." Angela added, her voice trembling slightly but resolutely, "My daughter has done nothing wrong. And you can't use an act of generosity to justify putting her under investigation." Daniels leafed through the file with an air of embarrassment. The evidence was clear. Marcus Lee had been the victim of repeated injustices and had committed no recent crimes. The focus on Maya had no legal basis. Finally, Sergeant Daniels looked up at Angela and Jonathan, visibly embarrassed. "All right. I understand. We're going to close this investigation into your daughter." Angela, relieved but still firm, replied, "Thank you. But I hope you also understand that the injustice Marcus has suffered deserves your attention." As Angela left the police station, she felt a huge weight lifted from her shoulders. Maya, who had been anxiously waiting for them at home, jumped into her mother's arms, her eyes filled with tears of joy. That day, the truth began to triumph. But Angela and Maya knew that the real battle was only just beginning, to change perceptions and stand up for those who, like Marcus Lee, had been marginalized and unfairly judged by society. A few days after the confrontation at the police station, Maya's story and her act of kindness began to spread more widely. Neighbors who had initially whispered behind doors and on street corners began to become open and curious. Some came to the Johnsons' door to express their support. "Maya, what you did was incredible," said Mrs. Carter, the elderly neighbor who lived across the street. "You showed that even a child can inspire others to do good." Young people from the neighborhood also came to bring small gifts and words of encouragement for Maya. The little girl, touched, understood that her kindness had sown something positive around her. The local media picked up the story. Reporters came to interview Angela and Jonathan, highlighting Marcus Lee's situation and the little girl's act of bravery. The articles told how a simple sandwich had exposed the injustices suffered by a man wrongfully accused in the past, and how a child could change perceptions and inspire justice. Marcus Lee, who had until then lived in the shadows and solitude of the streets of Chicago, began to receive help. Homeless support organizations and kind residents came to him with food, warm clothing, and advice. He had never imagined that a simple gesture from a little girl could attract so much kindness. Angela watched her daughter with pride and emotion. "You see, Maya," she said, "your kindness has sparked something much bigger than us. You have touched hearts and inspired people." Maya smiled, finally understanding the significance of her action. What she had done was not only an act of giving, but an example of courage and kindness in a world that was often harsh and unjust. This growing support strengthened their resolve. They would continue to stand up for the truth, help Marcus, and show that even the smallest gestures could bring about big changes in the community. Winter was winding down in Chicago, giving way to slightly warmer days. In the Johnsons' small apartment, Maya and her mother stood by the window, watching the neighborhood slowly come to life after months of tension and worry. Marcus Lee, now supported by the community and local organizations, had found temporary housing and a job. He regularly came to thank Angela and Maya for their help and support. For him, Maya's sandwich had not only satisfied his hunger, it had been the beginning of a turning point in his life. One evening, as they shared a simple but warm meal, Angela took her daughter's hand. "Maya, you showed what it means to be courageous and generous. Even in the face of fear and rumors, you never hesitated to do what was right." Maya smiled shyly. "But Mom, I only did what felt natural, helping someone." Angela shook her head. "That's exactly it, darling. Doing good, even when it's difficult, is what separates brave hearts from the rest. You inspired an entire community, and you gave Marcus a second chance. You showed that kindness can transform lives." Maya felt a surge of pride and joy wash over her. She understood that true strength lay not in fear or physical strength, but in the courage to stand by one's beliefs and reach out to others, even when no one was looking. A few days later, the neighborhood held a small gathering to celebrate Maya and support Marcus. Neighbors, young and old, gathered, applauding the little girl who had changed their perceptions of kindness and hope. Marcus, moved, spoke to everyone. "What that little girl did for me was more than just a sandwich. She reminded me that even in this harsh world, there are still kind-hearted people. Thank you, Maya." Maya blushed, but her smile lit up her face. She had learned a valuable lesson: courage and kindness, even on a small scale, can bring about great change and inspire lives. And so, life went on for the Johnsons and for Marcus, stronger, fairer, and filled with hope. A lesson in courage that Maya would carry with her for the rest of her life, and that would continue to shine in the hearts of those she had touched.